honor to be here with you guys tonight. To see Phil and Mike Ellavelle, and I don't know if Mike Olive is here, several others of you, but I tell you, I've had a small part in planting a few churches here in the States, but there's none, and I had very little to do with this one. Phil's being very gracious. But there's no church that I'm more proud of than you guys right here. Thank you. I talk about you guys literally every week. There's not a day or a week goes by that I don't tell somebody about the Recovery Church here in Florida. And I was just talking to Richard out here, my buddy, that and I know Philip shares this dream. We want to see a church just like this in every city in America. This is what I think church is supposed to be right here. So thank you for letting me be here, and just so proud of each of you. A lot of you I've never seen, probably never see again. But you're in the right place. You're doing the right thing. Don't get discouraged. There was a slide. Where is Frank? I keep hearing about Frank. Okay. There was a slide you put up a few moments ago that just said surrender on it. Okay? If you can put that slide back up, if you don't mind, if you can find it. It's over here? Okay. All right. This lady. Whatever. Whoever's got it. Put surrender up there if you would. Because that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. There's a verse in the Bible, Galatians 2:20. It's a fantastic verse. Galatians 2:20. Paul said these words. He said, I have been crucified with Christ. Now stop right there. When you get crucified, what happens to you? You die. All right? You die. Maybe there's been one or two people in history that was crucified that didn't die. But 99.99999%, you get crucified, you die. Okay? Paul said, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live. In other words, I'm dead. But Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, this body. Listen to this. I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I want to speak to you tonight on a real simple subject. If I was going to title this thing, I'd call it Die. Just die. And as I've been sitting here listening to you guys singing, your worship teams, boy, they're outstanding, and I have nothing but good to say about you. Okay? And just listening to you worship and just seeing you interact and all of that, you seem so happy tonight. And it's my desire. I've been praying for you all day. I've been in meetings and running around, and I'm an old guy, and I get tired real easy. But every time I've thought about you, I've been praying for you. I want you to be happy. That's my prayer for you. I want you to be happy. Okay? And for some of you, victory is just right around the corner. You're almost there. Maybe some of you have already crossed the finish line. Some of you, it's just right up ahead. You're almost there. And that makes me very happy. But there's a problem. And I know Philip would say this. In fact, he's the one that told me, and I've checked it out with others. Statistically, in our country, 9 out of 10 of you are going to have a relapse. Statistically. That's scary. That's really scary. I've got a son that's going through recovery right now, and we talk about it all the time. And he's well aware of that statistic I just gave you. You say, David, are you saying it's a 90% chance that I'm going to relapse? Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't have to be a statistic. You don't have to. Amen? You don't have to. Okay? You say, well, how do I keep from being part of that 90%? Well, here's what you got to do. You got to die. You have to die. And by die, I think if I could use one word to define what I mean by you got to die, it's that word surrender. By dying, I'm not talking about putting a gun to your head. I'm talking about You've got to surrender your life fully to Jesus Christ. Amen. We're talking about more than coming to church. We're talking about more. Church is paying. I've spent my life working in the church, but that's not enough. We're not talking about getting baptized. I've baptized a lot of people. I hope every one of you get baptized, but that's not enough. I'm not talking about turning over and you leave. I'm not talking about 12 steps or 10 steps or 20 steps. I'm talking about you've got to fully surrender your life to Jesus Christ. Now, what does that mean? How do you do that? I've got to have a couple of volunteers. Is it Rob? Roadkill?
Yeah.
I know you're working that camera, but I got to use you. Can you bring that chair and just put it right here?
Yes.
You can sit in it if you don't mind. Just sit in it if you don't mind.
There goes the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. I was going to let you be Jesus, but roadkill and Jesus don't go together. So I need a Jesus. All right, come on up. Great. Come on up. What's your name? Brian. Now, what's that name again? Brian. Brian. All right, Brian. Brian, you're Jesus. I don't. He was very humble.
Okay.
So you got to watch it. All right, now, Rob, this platform is going to represent your life, for you. Okay? And we're going to say it's your heart. Now, I don't mean that organ that beats, but the thing that makes you different from a mouse out in the back alley. Your soul, your spirit, the part of you that Christ comes to dwell in. So that's what this platform is. In this chair is the throne of your heart. In other words, whoever's sitting in that chair makes the decisions. All right, you got it? Now, Brian, you're Jesus.
Uh-oh.
All right? Rob doesn't know you yet. So why don't you get back there and just go back there somewhere. So here's Rob. But don't go too far, okay? Here's Rob. Jesus is not in his life. Okay? He's not a believer. He's not a Christ follower. All right? He may have a good life. He may have a bad life. But when if the Bible's right, when he leaves this world, it goes downhill real quick. And forever and ever and ever. Okay? He may have a lot of money. He may have no money. He may have issues. Everybody has issues. But the point is, he may be successful. He may not be successful. Jesus isn't in his heart. But when he dies, it's over for him. Now, he hears about Jesus. Maybe he comes to Recovery Church. He hears one of your pastors preach, and he asks Jesus to be his Savior, to come into his life and forgive his sins. So come on, Jesus. He's roadkill. He calls out to you. But here's what he does. What I want you to do, if you don't mind, is sit there. Just sit on the step there, if you would. Now, let me get out of your way so you can see. Jesus is in Rob's heart. Okay? But he's not on the throne. In fact, we'll say you're down in the basement. Okay? Jesus is down in the basement. So what happens is we invite Jesus into our life. But we don't let him sit on the throne. We lock Jesus up in the basement. And by the way, I was thinking today that would make a great name for a country song, wouldn't it? Somebody lock Jesus in the basement. That would make a great title. So Jesus is locked in the basement. What does that mean? It means his sins are forgiven. He's going to heaven. But that's about all it means. About all it means. And because he's still calling the shots, he's still making the decisions. Good luck. You're going to need it. But he hits a point in his life where he says, I don't want to live this way anymore. If I can trust Jesus to get me to heaven, I ought to be able to trust Jesus day by day here on this earth. And so what Rob does is he says, if you want to stand up, Rob, I give up the throne of my life, of my heart, and I invite Jesus to come. And Rob, you got to sit down, and we're going to roadkill in the basement, okay? Yes, sir. Now, Here's where, let me tell you what's going to happen here. Is he still going to have problems? He may have more. Okay? When we go to church and the preacher says you get right with Jesus, you won't have any more problems. I don't know what world he lives in. That's not the world I live in. That video you just saw, when that witch doctor accepted Christ and sold out, surrendered, they kicked him out of his village. He left his home. He left everything. Somebody gave him a job, by the way, in a sugarcane field. And he led 7 people to the Lord in that sugarcane field. And then he ended up planting a church. But you ask Jacob, he'll tell you, once I came to know Christ, I got a whole lot of problems I didn't know anything about. But the difference is this. Now you're going to have peace in your heart. And there's a purpose for living. And you got somebody going through the stuff of this world with you. And there's joy in the midst of the... when you get to my age, you've had a lot of sorrows. You've had a lot of tears. But you know what? When Jesus is sitting on the throne, he never leaves you. You can go through life alone, or you can go through life with God. I mean, you're a lot smarter to go through life with God. So here is what you want right here. You don't just want to invite Jesus into your life. You've got to put Jesus on the throne of your heart. So what does that mean? There's a song right now. It's kind of popular on the radio. It's called, I think it's called The Chain Breaker. You know what I mean? Y'all know that song? Probably sing it here. But listen, I love that song. But Jesus wants to be more than your chain breaker. He wants to be your decision maker. He wants to be the one that calls the shots. He wants to be the one that determines how you live your life. He wants to be the one that influences, listen to me, every decision you make, every word you say, every place you go, every relationship you're a part of. Now, if you want, you guys switch again, okay? Every once in a while, Rob, he gets tired of not being able to do whatever he wants to do, and so he kicks Jesus back in the basement. And when he does that, I'm telling you, there's a little verse in the Bible, nobody likes to quote it, but here's what it says. Whom the Lord loves, he chastens. You know what the word chasten means? It means bend over and... you don't get that, he gets that. Okay? You're the one that gives it to him. Okay? And so then at some point he says, you know what, Lord, I took control back. And he says, Jesus, I want you back on the throne. And so they switch again. And so, do y'all get it? Amen? You get it? All right, give these guys a big hand. You say, well, why should I let Jesus have control of my life? Well, number one, he created you. How much money did you give to be born? Nothing. You had nothing to do with it. You wouldn't be. It's his air. He created the atmosphere. You've been breathing his air, walking on his earth since the day you were born, since the day, at least a year. So first of all, he created you. Secondly, if you're a believer, he bought you with his blood. We just sang about the precious blood of Jesus Christ. He bought you. The word is redeemed. He redeemed you. He bought you. He not only owns you by right of creation, he owns you by right of redemption. He wants you to follow his will, his kingdom. You having Jesus on the throne of your life, surrendering to him means I have one purpose. I want to live for Jesus Christ. It's thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Not my kingdom, not my will. Thy kingdom, thy will. It means he's your Lord. You say, David, I don't want to do that. Well, then good luck. We'll see you back here in a couple of years. Yeah, that's just the honest truth. Yeah, if you make it. Good luck. But you know, you don't have. It doesn't have to be that way. You say, David, you're saying I got to surrender. Lock, stock, and barrel. Everything. Totally. Nothing held back. It's open-handed. I let go of everything. I yield myself to you. If you love me so much that you hang on a cross and die for me, then I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you that you'll do a better job running my life than I've been able to do with it. myself. Full surrender's tough. I'd like to be able to stand here and tell you that I always practice what I preach, but I don't. You know what I find myself doing? Switching back and forth. Switching back and forth. And maybe if I can live to about, maybe when I'm 80, maybe I'll finally figure it out. But I will tell you this. It's in the times of my life when Jesus is seated on the throne and I'm locked in the basement. Those have been by far the best times of my life.
Amen.
I want to close by telling you a story. I was just over in North Kenya in a Sudanese refugee camp. I don't know what you know about Sudan, but oh my goodness. There's been at least 1 million people killed there in the last 10 years or so. It's just one of the most difficult places in the world to be. And what's happened is there's just civil wars broken out everywhere, tribe on tribe, religion on religion. Just everybody's killing everybody is what's happening. And this refugee camp has about 200,000 people living in it. And it's just one camp. There are several others. These are all people that fled on foot from Sudan, across the border into northern Kenya. Many of them that are there, the way they escaped with their lives was as militias would come and just start killing everybody in the village. They literally hid under the dead bodies of their family members. Little children hid under the bodies of their moms and their dads, and men and women did the same thing. When they get there, they come with just the clothes on their back. They got nothing. They have no money, they have nothing. They have no suitcases. They have nothing. They can't get a job. Kenya doesn't want them. They can't go back to Sudan. If they do, they die. They just sit there all day. There's a cemetery. When they die, they bury them in the cemetery. And sometimes the men will go out and just sit outside the cemetery. They just sit on the ground and they just stare at the cemetery. And you ask them what they're doing, and they'll say, that's my life. I can't have a family. I can't have a job. I can't go home. I can't enter Kenya. I'm just going to sit here until I rot. And then they're going to put me in the dirt out there. That's their life. We got a guy, his name is Omar. He went and started leading people to Jesus. What I've noticed about people in countries like that, when they accept Christ, it tends to be a full, absolute, 100%, I'm in all the way. They don't play around. They jump in, is what they do. He led a bunch of people to the Lord, and then he started training them to plant churches. And when I talk about leading people to the Lord, I'm talking about people like you, just regular, normal people. And they've started in the last year 12 churches in that refugee camp. And I was talking to Omar, and Omar said through an interpreter, this is what he said to me. He said, David, in just a few months, I'm going back to Sudan. Not South Sudan, but Sudan. Sudan is under Sharia law. Okay? It's a very difficult place to go if you're a church planter. Okay? It's like anyway, it's tough. All right? I looked at him and I said, Omar, you understand, don't you, that Sudan is under Sharia? And he said, yes, with a big smile. He said, yes, I know. I said, well, where are you going to be? And he started showing me the different locations. He's going to open 6 locations, and he's going to recruit 125 of his believers up there to train to plant churches. I said, let me get this right. You're going to train 125 church planters in Sudan. He said, big smile, yes. I said, Omar, you understand, they're not going to be pleased with that. You understand that? Big smile, yes. I'm not exaggerating this. And then I looked at him and I said, you know, you probably won't live very long. You know that, don't you? And he said, yes. As I kept talking to him, you know what I discovered? There was a day in his life where he asked Jesus to come in. But he didn't say, Jesus, take up residence in the basement or in the shed out back. He got off the throne and he put Jesus on that throne. And that's what he believes Jesus is telling him to do. So he's going to do it. You say, well, are you telling me if I let Jesus sit on the throne, I got to go to Sudan as a missionary? No, I'm not telling you that. I am telling you, when Jesus is on the throne, he will tell you how he wants you to live your life. And I'm promising you, he has a plan for every one of you. And Satan is doing everything he can to keep Jesus locked in the basement. He didn't want you to know Jesus in the first place. And now that you know, he's going to do everything he can to keep Jesus locked in the basement of your life. If you'll just put him on the throne, let go of everything, surrender all, and say, Jesus, I am yours. Oh my goodness. You guys could turn this whole county upside down for Jesus Christ. Now I'm going to ask us to stand together, and I want to have a little prayer with you, okay? If I went too long, please forgive me. Can we just bow our heads for a second? I'm not really sure how you guys close your services here, but is there anybody that would say, David, I need to give full surrender of my life to Jesus. I just really need to do that. Just pray for me that I will. Anybody at all? Just put your hand up good high. Kind of touch the ceiling with it. Yeah, that's good. God bless you. Okay, I'm going to raise mine too, okay? In fact, I'm going to raise both. I need it. You can put your hands down. You know, the starting point to do this, I mean, you got to take, you know, there's a next step. And the next step for you is, if you haven't already done this, it's to ask Jesus to enter your life in the first place. Remember at first, Jesus was out there wandering around and Rob had to invite him in. Maybe you've never done that. I don't know a better time or place than right now, right here. It's just real simple. Ask yourself this question. Do I have God in my life? Have I trusted him and him alone to be my full salvation? Am I going to heaven when I die? Do I talk with him? Does he talk to me? You either have God in your life or you don't. Good news is he's willing to come in if you want him in. All you got to do is ask him. You say, I'm not sure how to do that. Well, let me help you. With heads bowed and eyes closed. If you're not sure that Jesus is your Savior, pray this prayer. Lord Jesus, I need you tonight. You died on the cross for me. You rose again. I believe that. Lord Jesus, right now, I'm asking you to come into my life. Forgive my sins. But Lord, do more than that. Sit on the throne of my heart. Take control of my life. I surrender all to you. And from this day forward, the best I know how, I'll trust you. In Jesus' name. Amen. If I can say one more thing. That little verse we read, I did what preachers aren't supposed to do, Mike. I read the text and then departed from it. Okay? Paul said, I'm crucified with Christ. Paul said, I was on that cross when he died with him. By the way, if you're saved now, you were too. You died with him. He said, nevertheless I live. Christ came out of that grave. Paul said, I came out of the grave with him. A new person. It's not I, yet not I, but Christ who lives in me. And the life that I now live right now, here in this flesh, watch, I live by faith in the Son of God. See, you say, how do you do that? It's a trusting thing. Paul made this statement. He said, I die daily. See, it's not Salvation's a one-time thing, but Jesus gets kicked off the throne real easy. At least he does in my life. So it's got to be a daily thing where you just say, Lord, life's miserable. I got problems. I don't see any way out, but I'm going to trust you. I live by faith, he said. That means trust in the Son of God, watch, who loved me and gave himself for me. That's what he's talking about, the cross. You can trust somebody who's willing to be crucified for you. That person you can trust. And that's what Jesus did for you. So, tonight, as you're distracted on your way home, just say, by faith, Jesus, you stay on the throne. I'm going to do it your way. Tomorrow, by faith, I trust you, Jesus. I'm going to do it your way. Hey, I love you. You're a great group. Thanks for listening.